very slow. One of the reasons that we're moving. So, Howard, where are you today?
I'm in Boulder Creek, California, at the HeartMath offices in my office today. Been doing a
Oh,
lot of
okay.
traveling, and just finished my last trip a couple of days ago. So I'm here now for about 2 months. Got to get to hang out in my house and not run around the world. So it's going to be cool.
Great. I'm hoping that we are broadcasting and
On my screen, it says live on Facebook.
well, it says that on my screen too, but you know what? I am just to make sure we are going to record it to the cloud because the last time I did this, it didn't record on Facebook.
All right.
So, so we're just going to go, and I am so happy that you are here with me today, Howard. And it's been a while. I love what you're doing with HeartMath. And let's start and tell our listeners, our watchers, our viewers a little bit about you, because you are one of the original co-creators of HeartMath along with Doc Childry, and you have been with the organization since 1991. And you have been a key spokesperson and executive and the co-author of the HeartMath Solution, which is classic and definitive work in the intelligence of the heart. And you're also a contributing author to the Heart Intelligence Connecting with the Intuitive Guidance of the Heart. And you're very involved with the Global Coherence Initiative. So we're going to hear all about this today, and I'm very excited. Thank you so much for joining us today, Howard.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I always enjoy our conversations. And greetings to everybody, wherever you're listening around the world today. I hope that whatever we talk about has some impact, gives some meaning to your life, and some inspiration about what we can all do to help create this new and better world.
Very much so, yeah. We want to create a better world, and I think we're doing this. Why don't you tell us a little bit about HeartMath and some of the experiments that you've been doing?
Well, for those listeners who don't know, I mean, like you mentioned, we've been around a long time, since 1991.
Yeah.
And what we've done all these years is we put together a system consisting of techniques, methods, and technology, all based on heart and on the intelligence of the heart, all underpinned with extensive scientific research. And we've disseminated that through the world, through technology products, through training programs of all kinds, through certifications. You know, we've like certified over 8,000 people around the world now. So it's, it's been this gigantic footprint that's happened, over this long period of time. And I guess the most interesting part of it to me is it seems to have no ceiling. Even this far into the career path, I still feel like a little boy. I'm still excited about everything that we're doing, and see HeartMath continuing to grow, and seeing more and more heart being demonstrated in the world. When I use the word heart, I'm just talking about qualities of the heart. Greater cooperation, more intuitive insight, certainly more demonstration of emotional qualities like care and compassion and kindness and patience being demonstrated. And even amidst the backdrop of all this chaos and confusion that we see, and all the horrific, societal issues that we have on full display, I see something else happening. I see a movement of adding heart happening all around the world, whether it's called that or not, or whether it's demonstrated in those overt ways or not. I see it happening. I see it unfolding. And so I remain very optimistic about the direction that we are going as a global society and as the world itself. And I think that we're trending in the right direction, even though we're going to see ups and we're going to see downs, and we're going to turn on the news every morning and we're going to find out things that we don't like. The trend is headed in the right way.
I agree with you. And I think one of the key importance of the news, although I don't watch the news in general, I do, keep updated. I think what it does is it creates a reason for us to focus more on kindness. It's like, oh
Well,
yeah, I think we really need to be more kind.
In many ways it does. It's unfortunate that we're still at this sort of place in the way in which we grow and evolve, but often we'll begin to make changes when we are faced with challenges, right? And
Yeah.
so we see these challenges coming up into the world, and it causes people to want to do more. In a sense, their heart opens a little, and they begin to want to contribute. It's still part of that heart movement I was referring to. So people begin
Sure.
to do more and take stands on certain things. And a lot of these movements that I see happening today, even though they may be based on trying to deal with some big problem, and they start out with maybe a reaction or an anger to a problem. Like, let's say that, those kids in Parkland, Florida, and what they're doing with the gun laws and the Me Too movement and all of that, they're still coming from a place of wanting to create positive change.
Yes. Very
That's where
true.
they start. So yeah, they can have anger, they can have all that in there. And over time, those movements, I see them sort of mature in a certain way, to where they take on the characteristics of recognizing that there's ways to work this out rather than just push the door down. In the beginning, it can be the need to feel like they're pushing the door down. But these movements are coming, and then there are more than the two I just mentioned, but these movements are showing up because people are desiring the changes that reflect their own inner state, which is also evolving at a very high speed.
Well, this is how our World Miracle Peace experiment began.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that was inspired, but definitely to create a unified field of consciousness filled with love and miracles that we can share with each other. And really, the field is palpable when I'm broadcasting my meditation live. I feel so transformed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really a wonderful thing. But let's talk a bit about the field of the heart. That's one of the amazing studies that HeartMath has done.
Yeah, I mentioned when you asked me what heart math, they talk about heart math. I said it was a system underpinned with extensive scientific research. And there are over 300 peer-reviewed research papers on heart math today on a variety of different subjects. And there are over 7,000 listings, sightings in the research literature of our work. So we've done a lot of work on heart, brain, body communication, social coherence, global coherence, intuition, lots of really interesting science that our researchers have done. One of the discoveries that we had many years ago, actually, when we were looking at heart, brain, body interactions, is that the heart had an electromagnetic field.
Right.
It's an electromagnetic energy we're talking about in this context, which is very measurable. It's like radio waves, and you measure them with magnetometers. So very traditional measurement tools being used to measure electromagnetic fields of any kind. Well, it turns out that the heart has one, and it's a very powerful field. It extends outside of our body about 3 to 4 feet out into space. This field is constantly changing. As the energy in the field, the frequencies in the field are always modulating and changing. And what we also found that was, to me, really fascinating is that what's changing those frequencies is our emotional state. So when we're upset, when we're angry, when we're on, in that kind of a place, we're broadcasting an incoherent spectra, meaning that there's a lot of chaos in the field.
Yeah.
When we are feeling more heart-related emotional qualities, let's say we're feeling more kind to someone, or certainly feeling a sense of love or care or compassion, the field becomes more coherent and ordered. So we're literally broadcasting this information. We're imprinting this field with our emotions, out into space. So this is an electromagnetic field measurement. Now, if we begin to look at this through the lens of, let's say, quantum physics, now we remove the barriers of time and space as we know them through quantum, through other types of physics. And now we start to have to think about, we have this field. It's the largest field that we have in our body. We know that it radiates beyond the skin out into space. That's measurable. What else is it connected to? Is it connecting us into this global field of consciousness, that goes beyond our planet, actually, this vast field of consciousness information that binds all living systems together wherever they are? And is it through the heart that we are making the most powerful connection to this field? My belief is yes.
Mine is too.
That's my life's work, but that's what I think is happening, is at the entry point that where we receive that information and where we also co-create with it is actually at the level of heart, even at the physical level.
Yeah, Karen Palmer says, so beautiful. Thank you for sharing this, Howard.
Sure.
Yes, it's so beautiful. And I experience that too as as an energy management specialist. I work with energy and I work with people all over the world, and I can feel where they're holding their emotions and their stuckness in their being, and I can help them release it. And I think that's also an extension of the work that you're doing. You know, you're basically providing a scientific validation
Yeah.
for what so many of us empathic and sensitive people can experience
You know, look,
or do
you have a
experience.
lot of sensitivities, and that's something we're all developing more of now. I was asked in an interview.
Howard?
Yeah, I'm here. Hello, everybody here. MarBeth's screen is frozen. I seem to be connected. Here we go. I'm
There
connected.
we go. Yay.
I'm back. Yeah, to take up where we left off, you know, you have sensitivities. People are developing sensitivities now, and what Heart Math Science has done is helped to give some understanding to that. That's helped a lot of people. I was asked a few years ago in another interview, a question just came up from the interviewer, said, "What do you think Heart Math's biggest contribution to the world has been so far?" And an answer just popped out of my mouth, and it was, "We have validated other people's belief systems." That's our
Yeah,
biggest contribution, you know. And so
it's
when
good.
I'm out speaking and I meet other authors and people and all that, they often say things to me like, "Thank you so much. You paved the way for us. You know, you gave us the science that we needed to, you know, to support, you know, the things that we were sharing and teaching." I think that's cool. You know, if we've been able to do that and help people in that way, I think that's fine. I think that's a great way to look at how maybe we can help the world.
I think so. I think it's a beautiful thing. And we're going to get down and dirty with this because
All right.
we just got another comment from Gerald Ann Hatherdale. She says, "Thank you for sharing this, Karen. I'm so excited to be here watching this. Thank you, MarBeth and Howard. I love Heart Math Institute." And Terry Angel says, "Hello, MarBeth and Howard. I'm so excited about this show." So we've gotten a lot of
Good.
excitement going here. And I think it's very valid because um, this is a new experience for many people, that there could actually be a field where people can connect on a different level, not on a physical level, but connect in a unified field of consciousness
That's
that can
right.
affect change. Can you speak to that?
Well, I think we are all recognizing now in modern science is beginning to support this, that we all live in a vast field of information and energy, that, you know, we are all interconnected through this vast web of interconnectivity. All living systems are, not just people, you know, plants as well, animals as well. You know, we're all sort of linked through these energetic fields. Now, that's glamorous. It's interesting. It's cool to talk about in an interview. It sells tickets when I go to talk live. But here's what's important to me. It's more than that. It's like, when we start getting a better understanding of the connections that are happening at these energetic levels, what I believe goes on, MarBeth, is that we start to get a sense that we're not alone.
We're not alone.
That we're feeling that, you know, whatever struggles we're going through, whatever feelings that we have, that we're really all in this together. And I think that's important that we recognize that connection. It also,
Absolutely.
it also puts us in a position, I think, in a good way of self-responsibility, to recognize that we are feeding the field. And that what we feed the field is having an influence on the field and therefore influencing everything else. You know, other people, the earth itself, the plants, the trees, everything. Is that we are making a contribution to that, to whatever we're experiencing in our daily lives. And this brings it right down to moment, day-to-day stuff. What are we
Yeah.
feeling right now? You know,
I'm
when
feeling
I
gratitude and appreciation for you, Howard.
Well, thank you so much. When I leave this call and I open my emails, what's going to be there? You know, and what's going to be the feeling associated with that? And what am I going to put out? And how am I going to act later in our weekly finance meeting? And these are all the questions, you know, that we have to answer ourselves. And so a question I ask myself a lot during the day is, what am I feeding the field? And so it just requires me slowing down just a little bit, you know, tuning into what's going on in the vibratory rate of my mind and emotions, and determining if that's really what I want to be feeding the field. Recognizing that the field's going to feed back to me, but that I
Absolutely.
also have this self-responsibility thing going on to where I am contributing in some way to the well-being of others.
Absolutely. I totally believe that. We have a few more comments. Gerald Ann Heatherdale says, "You're helping the world. Me as well. I just got certified as an Ad Heart facilitator." And Karen Palmer says, "I'm so excited to bring this wisdom to children and schools everywhere. Thank you so much
Well,
for
that's
this
wonderful.
information."
Yeah. And I appreciate the comment from both of them. The Ed Hart Facilitator Program is something I created, was one of the core creators of it. There's a lot of, it takes a village here at HeartMath to create things, but
Yeah,
it's a program to help people understand very simply how they can add heart to their lives and the lives of others. There are three components to it. You learn some heart math, you practice it as you go, our technology comes with it, and then you get an understanding of how to share it. So learn, practice, and share. And I created it because I wanted something that was lower cost for people to be able to get involved in this Ad Heart movement in a bit more formalized way, but in a way that was easy for them. It's not a really long course. So to hear from an Ad Heart facilitator, the reason I mentioned that, to hear from one and say, you took your course, that excites me,
of course.
And of course, I speak about on those little 6 audio recordings, I'm the speaker on about 70% of it. So by now, this poor woman's probably talking with a Southern accent.
It could very well be. But we've been talking about heart coherence. Let's talk about the Global Coherence Initiative.
Okay, on the nonprofit side of HeartMath, we have for-profit
Yeah,
and nonprofit. On the nonprofit side, it's where the research takes place, as well as things like education for children and things like that. So if you want to check out that side of what we do, you go to heartmath.org, and the rest of HeartMath is at heartmath.com. A lot of cool stuff in both places. But
sure.
on the nonprofit side, we started something back about 8 years ago now called the Global Coherence Initiative. And what it is just a part of the nonprofit where you join for free. You just register and you join and become a member of Global Coherence Initiative. And it's an effort that we made to bring people together from around the world to use our heart-focused care and intention to help shift this planetary consciousness from the chaos and the confusion that we see to more harmony, cooperation, enduring peace. So yeah, there are lots of groups, including yours, and the things that you do with your meditations that are doing this. So when we started Global Coherence Initiative, it was just to say, okay, we play in a lot of different ways in helping to change the world. Let's play this way too. And we
Sure.
weren't trying to make it the biggest deal in town or anything. We were just trying to add to a lot of what was going on in this type of approach to global change. So we have global care room. People go there. There's meditations there. They can see little goal markers on a global map where other people are in the world that are doing it with them right now, that are there in that room. So things like that help to create the connection.
Do you
Now,
have any metrics that refer to any shifts that you've noticed, perhaps in the Earth's magnetic field related to our emotions?
yeah, that's where I know where you're going now with this. It's like there's a science side to this. Well, it's hard, man. So there's going to be some science. So one of the coolest things about Global Coherence Initiative is the science. Now, we know that the Earth has energetic fields. Everybody knows that, geomagnetic field, ionosphere. And then we also know through not just our research, but a lot of research, that these fields are constantly changing. And as they do, they affect human health and behavior. Well documented, well understood, more to go. So we figured that if these fields are affecting us, then maybe we're also affecting them. Maybe it's a two-way communication going on here. So we have developed technology along with other researchers that can take very sensitive measurements of the energetic fields the Earth produces. And we are building a network of sensor sites around the world, global coherence monitoring sites that we're placing around the world where we can look at the changes occurring in these fields. Now, we are doing it for 3 reasons. One is these sensor sites, which we have a lot of them now. We have 6 or 8. They're all around the planet. Saudi Arabia, Lithuania, South Africa, New Zealand, California, Canada. We have a bunch of them, and they're feeding data back to our research labs. So the 3 reasons we did this are to help contribute more to the academic literature and understanding of the fields themselves.
Mm-hmm.
2, to test more and to do more experiments and research on knowing how these effects are taking place in the world that the fields are having on us, right? And the 3rd is to test a hypothesis, which means you have to look at things very neutrally. Hypothesis would be that mass human emotion generated by the 3 billion of us now, whether that be positive or negative, can be having a measurable impact on the Earth's energetic fields. So the experiments that we've been doing lately and the new research we've been publishing has really been on the effects the fields are having on us. And what these studies are showing is this global synchronization is taking place. It's not a mystery. It's going on. You know, when changes occur in the sun that affect the fields, there are changes that occur in the earth, and there are changes that are occurring in people. A recent study that we did with over 106 people procked in various countries around the world, having their heart rhythms measured for 6 months, taking random psychometric surveys that were sent to them via email at different times, accumulating all that data. And looking at that data, we could clearly see that when there are changes occurring in these fields, that there was mass changes occurring in all those people all around the world in different parts of the planet who don't even know each other, have no connection to each other, and from completely different cultures, yet experiencing very similar emotions and having very similar changes occur in their physiology. So a study like that begins to create this link more between, the fields and us, and there is an effect, which actually, in a certain way, begins to strengthen and support the hypothesis that if there's that much connection going on, then perhaps we are influencing the fields. So,
yeah,
to not answer and to fully dodge your question,
I noticed that.
We don't know yet if we are affecting the fields. There's still a lot of research to be done. And I'm sure that there are many indicators, and I'm sure that there's a lot that could be inferred and implied at this point about that. But our researchers don't share it that way. And the reason they don't is because this is important scientific research. And the way the science community works is if you haven't published this and you begin to talk about it, it can invalidate publication.
They okay, I got it.
Got to be what's called embargoed, first. And then if you get out publicly with it, then before it's actually been published in a journal, it can actually affect the ability to have it published.
Okay.
Second aspect of that is like, for something this important, you want to make sure that everything is being done right and well documented so that it can't be written off as pseudoscience.
Right. We don't want it. And just because I know that the level of violence, the statistics show that the level of violence dropped in the Middle East during the first phase of our experiment from May 7th through June 6th. I saw a graph. Now, I would like to say that they were directly related. I believe they're directly related. Can I prove it? Absolutely not. So that's why we're continuing our experiment, and we are focusing our attention, this intention, this beautiful field of very palpable field on the Middle East, because we want to see can we actually prove this?
Yeah, well, I applaud that work. I think that's great that you're doing that. And, there are others, my friend Lynn McTaggart does great work in that.
Absolutely, yes.
There are others that are doing this sort of thing. And so I urge the continuance of that for you and for the rest of the folks that are doing it. We'll be there doing our part, and we'll eventually help connect some dots, to support those things as we go. And it all works together, as we begin to show and to prove that we can, in fact, change the world, even sitting in our own home. We don't have to be all out in the world. We don't have to be formally part of any movement. We do it through what we radiate from our mind and emotions, and that is driven by how we relate to our heart.
So let me ask you, Howard, this is a little bit off the beaten path as well. I tend to see people on three levels: that there's a physical, that there's an energetic, and that there's a spiritual. And I know that HeartMath has been very influential in working on both the physical and the energetic level.
Right.
What's your take on the spiritual?
Well, to me, what you're describing is real, that there are different uses, that are all related and integrated. And we have this part of ourselves that goes beyond the physical and certainly beyond the emotional and even the energetic. And it's where, we can call it a lot of things. People call it, spirit, for example, or they call it their soul or whatever. And to me, I'll put it to you this way. It is through the heart that my spirit manifests itself in my humanness.
Beautiful.
That's where the connection occurs, and that's how it plays out in my day-to-day. So if you go back in the genesis of HeartMath and how it was formed and how far it goes back now, over 40 years, it was all about that in the beginning.
It's
And
beautiful.
we've stepped it down into the things we do today, into a system that can be shared with the world and all that. But you go back to Dr. Childry, myself, other people at the time as well, young men and women, living in North Carolina, in a very rural area where there was nothing to support what we did, but we were finding it in ourselves, and it was that connection to spirit and a spiritual unfoldment that was the reason that we ended up ever develop anything like HeartMath.
No,
So
it's
that's
beautiful.
the real crux of why we do what we do, is to make that connection, to help people connect with that part of themselves.
Yeah.
Whether again it's a nurse in a hospital or a police officer, and these kind of people that we train, and it's just however that manifests for them, it's just connecting them to something that's the best and most beautiful part of what they truly are. And to
Yeah.
do that, we help activate the heart, and we do it in ways that are often looked at very mainstream. But at the end of the day, it's trying to help people empower themselves and move beyond their own ordinariness into something that's much more beautiful, and something that already exists within each and every person.
I think that's beautiful. And I'm going to ask our listeners if they have any questions. I have a comment. Karen Palmer says, I love how science bridges with ancient wisdom teachings. It's so wonderful. Thank you for all your work, Howard.
Sure.
And Marilyn Heatherdale says, well said, Howard. Karen Palmer says, I love the way Howard expressed that awesome sauce.
I put the sauce on them this morning.
You put the sauce on. So
Good.
I think I love the work that you're doing. And and can you talk a little bit how our fields interact with each other?
Yeah, obviously we're exchanging information all the time in unseen ways. So much of the relationship that we have with each other, even at communication levels, is actually happening energetically. So we know that fields affect one another, and we've done many interesting experiments proving that, and we're doing more right now. The thrust of HeartMath's research at the moment is on social coherence. We understand individual coherence really well. We've been leaders and pioneers in that, and have done it for over 20 years. The research now is what happens in groups,
Beautiful.
what happens in a meeting, in an office, what happens in larger groups of people, how are we relating, how are we interacting. We're showing that there's definite, for real, energetic connections that are occurring. One interesting experiment done by somebody else, I'll share. It was done by another organization using our technology and our technique, one of our techniques from our training program. They had 40 participants. They divided them into groups of 4, and prior to the time that they put them together, they had 3 of the 4 were trained in HeartMath techniques called heart lock-in technique. It's just a heart radiation technique. 4th person wasn't trained in anything. They brought them in and set them up in groups of 4 tables. Each of them was hooked up to a heart called M-Wave Pro, one of our technology products measuring heart rhythm changes, where you can see the incoherence and moving into coherence. The instructions for the group were that, and again, the 4th person doesn't know any of this, right? The 3 people were told, get into a higher state of coherence. When you see that happening on your M-Wave Pro, then radiate your love and care to that 4th person at the table. The 4th person just saying, you're going to do an experiment, sit here, put this ear clip on, watch the screen. That's all they know. Well, what happened was in about half the tables, the 4th person went into coherence at the same time that the other 3 did.
Beautiful. I
So,
love
they
that.
weren't doing anything, but they went straight into coherence.
So there
And
you're showing right there what our experiment is, that beaming that love at the 4th person affected them. They
correct.
went into coherence.
Yeah. And we've got other experiments like that. And there's some fun ones too. You mentioned me being a contributor to our newest book, Heart Intelligence, it's called. And
Sure.
I wrote a chapter on social coherence, and I found this really interesting study done by these researchers at University of Virginia, where they were having people stand in front of a hill and determine, how steep the hill was. And an individual just standing at the hill, determined a certain steepness. And then when they paired that person, or took 2 people and paired them together, not the same person, but took 2 and paired them together and asked them how steep the hill was, they saw the hill as being less steep. And then they took it one more level, and they did it with people who knew one another, like a husband and wife or something, or they had a relationship, friends or whatever. And they saw the hill as being less steep than the other 2. But
Wow.
the point of the study was is when we're looking at a hill by ourselves, it looked more steep. When we're with someone else, it looks less steep. And when we're with someone we have a relationship to, less steep again.
So
I
it
think
made it more approachable.
it's a great analogy for life, isn't it? As
It
we
really
have our
is.
own hills that we need to climb and climb. When we do it alone, it can look and feel a lot harder than when we do it with each other. So
Very true. You've got
lots of
some more
experiments.
comments. What were you
But there'll
saying,
be
Mary?
there'll be more new things coming out with some of the experiments we're doing today and now on the social coherence side of things.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Karen Palmer says again, there was so much valuable information shared in this interview. I am grateful for both of you. And Gerald Ann Heatherdale says, love the book, a must read. And Terry Angel says, I have loved this interview. Thank you both, MarBeth. I'm so looking forward to meeting you soon, since we
Thank you
both
guys for
live
your time
near
and
each
attention
other.
for being here. If any of you are, I don't normally say this, but I had an email, a good email just before we went live. If you live in Europe, I mentioned I'm home for the summer now, but I'm going back out and I'm going to be doing some dates in London in
Wow.
mid-September. Go there often. I draw pretty good audiences in London for some reason. And I'll be there in London mid-September. And I just had another date added this morning for Dublin on the same week. So England and Ireland in mid-September.
Where can we get your book? Karen is asking, where can we get the book? And that's a
You get
good
it at
question.
heartmath.com, or you can get it on Amazon.com, which is ever easier for you.
Okay.
Heartmath.com or Amazon.com.
And I have, your biography, which is going to be on our conversations about peace page, which
Okay.
will be on the link. I think Christine, you can post that, please. And it's because we're going to have the video is going to be there for posterity, and also on the Facebook page. So we're getting the information out about you, because I think the work that you're doing is so important, and I just really love having you here. Do we have any other questions, guys? So I think, well, I could go on with you for a long time, but I think we've been
I have
on
that
quite a while.
finance meeting I have to go to.
I know, I'm going to let you go. Um, Sharon Rhea says, I am writing a children's book about no judgment, just love, and include heart math information. Thank you for this interview.
Sure. Well,
Thank
Marbeth,
you.
thank you. And thank you for what you're doing. I know you put a lot into this and trying to help people and doing it through mediums like you're doing today. And for everybody that's listening and know that, yeah, this is enjoyable. It's fulfilling for Marbeth to do this, but she has to set this up and do it. So it's an act of service on her part that I think we should all appreciate.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you
Okay.
so much, Howard. This has been wonderful.
Yeah, it has. Good to be with you again.
Yes, it really is.